You ready for this?
No, but go ahead.
You sure?
It is what it is.
It is what it is. They hit the buttons now, so now we're going for
we're
it.
going.
We're
okay.
going for it. Hey everybody! Hey everybody, and welcome to the podcast. Today I have a good friend of mine and a good friend of our store, Michelle Parker. She is here from So Many Quilts, and she's going to talk to us about how she has used her previous skill set from her other life, basically,
former life,
to create an amazing longarm quilting business that she has now. So Michelle, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I'm happy that you're here. How are you feeling?
Very nervous.
Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. We've talked 1,000
yes,
times.
We have.
Now there's just lights, microphones, and cameras.
Other than that,
nothing else has changed.
Nothing has changed.
Nothing
You're
has
right.
changed.
Okay.
So welcome in. I'm
you.
super excited that you're here. And I love your story. I remember when you came in to buy your longarm in 2019 from us, December, if I believe.
Yes, that's when I took delivery.
Yeah. And you were talking about kind of your previous life.
Right.
So can you give us a little bit of background on what you did before you started this quilting business that you have?
My most recent business work life was for a gentleman that I'd worked for. I worked for him for almost 20 years, and we dealt with e-commerce.
Okay.
We were sales reps for furniture, and we started a cut and sew workroom.
Okay.
So I had by the end, I had 100 sewers and cutters. You placed an order on an internet, and our team went to work producing the goods. So it was mostly outdoor pillows and cushions. Wow. So we did what was called white box labeling. So you could find my same pillows on almost any home deck and big box e-commerce website. And you'd place the order. We'd get the order. Usually lots of shopping happened on Sunday. We get a boatload of orders on a Monday, and we had till Wednesday to ship them.
Whoa.
So when we first started, we took 2 weeks to ship, and by the time 5 years in, we were down to 24 to 48 hour shipping on every order.
Wow.
And so I had sewers and cutters and warehouse people and office people, and I was SVP for the company. So most people that worked with us, they assume I was one of the owners because I'm not an I person when I work. I'm a we person. And because even when I did it, I didn't do it by myself. So, and I enjoyed it. So at one point, we had made headboards. So we did upholstered headboards. And I said I did the soft part and the owner did the hard part. Hard as in the wood.
Right.
He designed the frame and the jigs and all that for the frame. I selected the fabric and the designs that we used and hired upholsterers and worked with that. So that was a team that we did. And I've always had an eye for home decor and fabrics. I started that in high school a couple weeks ago.
Just a few weeks
Just
ago.
a few weeks ago. When there was we had home ec and we had sewing one semester and cooking the next. And when it came down to cooking, you need the salt, here's the salt. I didn't care anything about cooking.
He was a sous chef.
I mean, I do my cooking at Panera, La Madeline, Whole Foods.
This is why we get along so well.
Yeah,
I do the same thing.
Yeah, whatever. So we did that together and did a really good job. So then we came to a point where I was really good with the details, Excel spreadsheets, organizing the people, and I was burned out.
Yeah.
Just burned out. And he said, "What else do you want to do?" I said, "I just don't want to do spreadsheets."
Fair.
And I want something more creative. And that's how we got more into the cut and sew workroom with the pillows, because I could select the fabrics and I could select the edging on the pillows and what styles they were. And that was really fun for me. But that too you got to deal with people.
Right.
When you work in a corporate environment, you have to deal with people.
Oh, for sure.
And people are peoply.
People are very peoply. Yes.
And
yes.
so that got tedious as well.
Yeah.
So then along came, he said, "Well, what do you want to do that's more in your quilting stuff?" Well, I'd never considered making quilting a real job.
Yeah.
Or even anything other than, I worked part-time at a quilt store for a long time on Saturdays and Sundays, helped customers pick fabric, taught beginning piecing and other classes, loved it.
Yeah.
And so he gave me about 6 months to say, figure out what you want to do. I did a lot of research and said, okay, what about longarming? And
hold it. Yeah, that's an amazing boss. Really,
he is an amazing boss.
Figure out what you want to truly do now that you've done this amazing career. What's the next step? And that's amazing. I love that.
He was young enough to be my son.
Okay.
We would go places on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And they'd say, your mother. And he'd go, no. And I'd just sit there because I knew the age difference was obvious.
Right.
A wonderful man. He really appreciates, and still today, when I talk with him, he appreciates what I did for him. We started in an office that was 10 by 10, about the same size we're sitting in here right now.
Right.
And we had 2 desks pushed together facing each other. He got the side with the window behind him. He said he had the windowed office. And I'm like, okay, I can see out. You can't. I could.
So who's really got the advantage here?
Yeah, I had the advantage. So, we couldn't even get out of our chairs by pushing them back.
Right.
You turned and you stood up. And that's where we started.
Yeah.
And we started on whiteboards. And he was a true entrepreneur. We couldn't even go to lunch where he was looking at the menu and I could see the gears were turning. It's like, stop, just order your stinking sandwich. So just a really good man.
Yeah.
But if you've ever dealt with any entrepreneurs, they're a little crazy in their own right.
Yes, they are.
The nice part of working for a small company like that is we could turn on a dime.
Mm-hmm.
We'd go in a meeting and make a decision and could implement it right away.
Right.
We go to trade shows and we'd see our customers. And we walked out of a customer. We originally, when we started the pillows and cushions, I had a third party doing it. They made some delivery mistakes. Well, more than once, 3 times. And the third time we were in front of a customer and we walked out of the thing and I promised the people in the meeting, I said, this will not happen again. Yeah. I promise. And he walked out. We're in the hallway of the customer's building. And he said, what are we going to do to not make that happen? I said, we're going to do it ourselves. Now, this was his money.
It's a little easier to call the shots that way.
Yeah. And he said, okay, how are we going to do it?
Yeah.
And so literally in the Uber back to the hotel and on the plane back home, we were making those plans.
Yeah.
And we found a big 60,000 square foot building and went from 4 of us in the building and it was remarkable.
That's amazing.
Remarkable what I helped him do.
The 10 by 10 square to what it was now. That's amazing.
Yes.
So you mentioned you work really well as in the I, instead of I, it's we.
Yes.
So when you were figuring out in that 6-month period what you wanted to do and you landed on Longarm Quilting, that's a very I job. So how was that to be able to turn it to instead of being with a big team, how was it like to transition to being working by yourself?
So when we originally talked about it, it wasn't going to be I. My original plan was that we were going to start with one machine. Mm-hmm. I found us a place to house the machine because the warehouse was in Arlington. I was in Addison. And that was a long drive, and we had a hard time finding employees that were willing to work at the hourly wage we needed.
Oh yeah. And
we were over by Six Flags, actually north of there, and there's just businesses.
That's
no people.
Yeah,
there were no people, so there was no neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find people. There was no bus line, there was no
right.
So and people, lots of my employees rode together in cars. When I finally homed in on it, it worked. So I found a place in Addison. The original plan was to buy 1 machine, grow that business to 2, and there was a space right next to me. And I originally planned to have 4 to 6 machines.
Okay.
And I know lots of businesses can run. One person can easily run 2 longarms.
Yes,
on edge to edge.
Yes.
Obviously, you can do that on custom and turn around and do edge to edge, but that's and it's actually would be kind of good.
Yeah, it's a different.
You kind of give your break, but it's
a different mindset though because it disrupts your custom flow.
Yeah, that's exactly
when the edge to edge row stops.
And you're like, oh, well, I was thinking here.
Right. Yeah.
So I do some custom, but not much.
Yeah.
And I have to think really hard. It doesn't come second nature because my strength is EDE.
Yeah.
And so that was my original plan. it wasn't growing fast enough for him.
Okay.
Well, we hit the pandemic in the middle of this.
Yeah.
I got my machine in 2019. Pandemic happened in March.
Yeah.
I still was tied to him, got sucked back into the other business.
Yeah.
Went to Mexico for him, and we set up warehouses and factories down there. And I did that in 2020 as a test. And then I went back in 2021 and set up our real factory.
Okay.
So now there's 120 sewers and
Wow.
and I don't know how many cutters and
Right.
and we just did all, and that's grown to more.
Right.
And so I did, so 2020 I was part-time with my business, with the longarming business, and then 2021 the same. And so it wasn't growing the way he hoped it would.
Right.
I was also finding I was loving the creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. I just saw longarming as just a necessary evil for getting your quilt done.
Yes.
I worked at a quilt store and went to lots of places where where you picked from just a book. Here's
Yeah.
your pictures.
Right.
Or here's a box.
Right.
Or a tub. Pick what you like.
Yep.
And that was my experience with longarming. And so our intention was for it to be an e-commerce type situation where you would pick your thread, you would pick your design, you would pack up your quilt, you'd send it to us, and then send it back when it was done.
Right.
And, da-da-da-da. And also, if we wanted to, we talked about maybe adding binding services or labels and things like that.
Okay.
And it just wasn't growing fast enough for him to get there, and he had other focuses. And so I bought him out. I said, he talked about, do we sell the machine? I said, yeah, to me. And so I bought him out, and it's now been almost, I think we're 11 months and 3 days from me being, thank you very much. It's time for me to move on and do this, and then me running this business. And the growth, since I'm not have a foot, about 40% of myself
Right.
in his business
Yeah.
has been tremendous. This last year has been tremendous amount of growth because that's all I'm focusing on.
So you had mentioned all this previous, expertise that you did with spreadsheets and calls and emails and communication and all that kind of stuff. How have those skills help you grow so many quilts? Because I've watched you online. I watch your social presence and I talk to you in the store when I'm there. And it's skyrocketed, in my opinion. I think it's been amazing to watch. It has been amazing. But I really want to know some of those, especially communication skills and understanding people. And because in this creativity space, you really have to know people to be able to move forward, in my opinion.
Right.
So how have those skills helped you?
I have always had, if I didn't want to do anything else in life, I can always kick butt and take names with customer service. I do that really well.
Yeah.
I understand I need those customers.
Yeah.
And you have to work with them. Spreadsheets, I use those to track my business, to what's been my best-selling pantograph, what works best for the customers, what threads are working better than others, and those kind of things. So it becomes a diagnostic tool. I can diagnose all my data, and that's not the right word, diagnostic.
It was,
but
it
was, I'm researching that data.
Yeah.
From the e-commerce part of what I did before, I knew, and I've always done that way. I did it when I worked at the quilt store part-time. I taught their beginning quilting class. I only needed them to have 3 fabrics. And they'd say, oh, I like that. And I could tell that wasn't an exciting, I like that. So I'd help them find something they loved.
Yeah.
Understanding, kind of being able to read people. It has been a key. I think that's here, not a previous work experience.
Yeah.
But from a product standpoint on Instagram and Facebook and all those, one of the things I did in e-commerce was you had to describe, when you're buying something online, you have to give them all the information that they don't know they're asking.
Right.
So if you're in a store and you're looking at a desk, you don't open a drawer and say, oh, I wonder what size that drawer is.
Right.
No, you open the drawer and go, oh, yeah, my pencils will fit in there.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll hold my file cabinets.
Right.
But if you're doing that online, you have no reference of size. So I made sure to teach my team, and that again is from inside me.
Yeah.
Give them the dimensions. Tell them, that it will hold letter size or legal size or whatever. So that same thing comes into play in what I'm posting on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Is give them the story behind it. Give them what it is. Give them some kind of reference. One of the things, I had a customer come in the other day, a new customer to me. She had never had the discussion, and I knew exactly what she was talking about because I lived in the same getting a longarmer world. What designs do I pick from? I said, no, we got other things we have to talk about first. Density. What are you going to use this for?
Right.
It's going to hang. You're going to wall hanging. Are you going to cuddle with it? So do you like it dense? Do you like it open? Oh, I don't know. Well, and I show them one. This one will stand up by itself. Do you want that much quilting? Do you want it to do this?
Right.
And so those are conversations that I help them ask. And that comes from understanding they don't know the questions they don't know to ask.
Right, yeah.
And that comes from my e-commerce part of describing product and doing photography that shows off what they're trying to buy.
Yeah.
The social part of it, one of the other companies, the man that I worked for so long, was ladies' fashion cowboy boots.
Oh, okay.
And I got to watch everything they did with Facebook and Instagram, and they did TikTok and all those things. And so while I didn't know what the heck he was talking about when he was talking about things feeding all the way through and, aligning the e-commerce website to the thing, I got enough that I knew I needed to know it.
Right.
And the same thing with a website.
Yeah.
You got to have a website. The first thing people do when they see a brand, so if they saw the Corey Michelle,
Yep.
Yeah. They're looking up Corey Michelle to see their website.
Hitting Google and seeing what it is.
I never did that.
Yeah.
At first. Now I found I do that.
Yeah.
All the time now too. So those things came from that previous world that I would have taken me longer to drink the Kool-Aid on those things and understand how really, really important they were.
Yeah. So earlier today, you had touched on the fact that in your previous life, you took over, or maybe not took over, but you were looking at the quality of things and the cushions and the fabrics and the colors. And sometimes you had, things that had to be, I think you said, done on Sunday and out by Wednesday.
Yeah, we got the orders on
Sunday.
People shopped on Sunday. We got orders on Monday, and they had to ship by Wednesday.
So that turnaround time, and since you're no stranger to being kind of under a time crunch, has that helped you when you're kind of planning out your schedule of how you're going to get quilts back to people and done, and kind of what's that deadline to have something done by a certain holiday or different things like that? Because I think a lot of people, when they're first getting into the long arm quilting business, they're trying to figure out how to not stretch themselves too thin, but to adhere to their calendar, adhere to their deadlines and their schedule. And can you talk a little bit on that for us?
Well, this is a full-time job for me.
Yeah.
So I am at the machine between 8:30 and 9 o'clock.
Okay.
If I'm not at the machine by 8:30 or 9 o'clock, Michelle, my boss, she's having a conversation with me. I don't and lots of people who work from home or have their own business think you have freedom to go do all these other things.
Right.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
I do. I have freedom to be here today doing this.
Yeah.
But I will be working tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm putting in 40 to 50 hours a week.
Okay.
However, I choose to do that. I could choose to do that in the evenings, or I can choose to do it in the mornings. I'm honest with my customers. I have a good sense of what I have hanging in queue.
Right.
And I will tell them it would be, at one point, it'll be a week. It'll be a week, maybe 2 weeks. Well, now I'm up to, it's 2, probably 3.
Okay.
And as they're hanging, they all have a work ticket in it. I can tell the day I took it in. I can tell, I write on there what I told them. And I'm flipping through there going, oh, wait, she just told me she's headed out on vacation. I just saw it on so-and-so. Let's move you right here. And so because I know she won't be back.
Right.
So to have it ready when someone else I could move up. So that's just a sense of organization that I've had for a couple weeks since I started a real job 1,000 years ago. Yeah. But yes,
awesome.
you can stretch yourself too thin.
Yeah, no, I know it. Yeah.
One of the things I've done is I've started posting on my Instagram, how many days it is till Christmas.
Right.
But actually, that's not what I did. How many days it is till Thanksgiving. Because what are you going to want to do the Friday after Thanksgiving? I know what you're doing.
You know what I'm
You're
going to be
decorating.
doing. Yes.
And so you're going to be pulling out your Christmas quilts.
Right.
So is everybody else.
Yeah.
So is everybody else.
Yeah.
And so how many weekends do you have till Thanksgiving?
Right.
Because the queue gets longer. Mm-hmm. And so it does become, I keep thinking it's going to get busier, but I keep getting busier when I thought it wasn't going to get busier.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be busy over there. People are on vacation. Well, I'm getting busier.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to at some point have to say it's going to be 4 weeks and probably deliver less than that.
Yeah.
And so it just is a matter of do the best you can.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, kind of figuring it out. And it
Yes.
comes with experience and it comes with time. So another thing that I wanted to touch on, because you brought up a good topic, was when you're going in and out of slow seasons, possibly, because there is seasonality in quilting sometimes.
I haven't found it yet, and maybe it's because I'm
That's
still
good.
in the growth.
You're still in the growth factor, yeah. So having that season, and maybe you saw that in your previous job as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Are there ways to not get discouraged when seasonality hits and stuff starts slowing down before it starts ramping up? What's a way to not get in that mindset, or is there something else that you could be working on during that time, or different things like that to not get discouraged and be like, okay, I put in all this work and now my business is slowing way down. What did I do wrong?
What did I do wrong?
Yeah.
And it's always my fault if I did something. My poor kids, I got something the school called and they da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think we always did it? Because you usually did. So it is always your fault. Why do you always think it's our fault? I have a rolling cart that has my drink,
Yep.
my pad, who I'm working on, my pens, and then 8 drawers of stuff. There's a tablet right there. And things that I want to do that I just don't have time for, they get on there. So I call them my January projects. So about December 15th, 18th is when I assume it's going to start.
Yeah.
And I've assumed last year it would be about the same thing in January. I was off and it was earlier when it started, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So I planned big projects. So I wanted to build a new thread cabinet and get the thread organized. I wanted to do some quilts differently and hang the bars, the rods they hang from. So I wanted things like that, some things you just can't do
Right.
when you're running a quilt.
Yeah.
And so I had this list of about 6 or 8 things that were on there. And that was my to-do, and I knew that was my to-do. And because I had done that, I didn't, fortunately, get into that black hole where,
Right.
what I do wrong?
Right.
Nobody loves me anymore. Now what?
No one's bringing me their quilt.
Yes,
Did I
and I'm not
quilt it
hearing
not
from
right?
anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's how I've planned for it.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same thing. I've actually got something on that list already that, it's not burning. The house isn't going to burn down because it's not done yet, obviously, but
Yeah.
it's on the list of that's what I need to do at that time. So that's how I've handled some of that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. I like the cart idea. So this is kind of the list of where things can.
Yeah,
this is what's
everything's
gonna happen.
there, and that list it's got numbers on it.
I think that's something I'm going to need to do.
Yeah, because you do get into those.
Yeah.
And you've got to do, I'll say housekeeping, house cleaning. And it's not necessarily house cleaning, the way we think of cleaning your house, but things you do to maintain, resetting my intake queue rack and getting stuff on there. I originally thought I was going to do a lot of T-shirt quilts. I did it because I needed to.
Yeah.
They're how do I nicely say, I did enjoy them.
They're not your favorite thing
No,
to
they're
do.
not my favorite by any means. And so I can now say, no, I don't do those anymore. So I know in that rack right now still it has fusing and things like that. I can chunk. Mm-hmm. But I haven't taken the time because by the time I move everything out, I've got this big mess. And I don't want that mess when a customer comes. Because when a new customer comes, they get the nickel tour. And one of them is where your quilt hangs in queue. And they don't need to see, oh, hi, I'm cleaning the closet out, basically. And And I know your stuff's right there, but it's fine, I'm sure. So, yeah.
So you mentioned them getting a tour into your studio and different things like that. So when you came from this other life and you started this new business, having customers come into your home, starting that business, how were you figuring out a business plan to cover insurance and to cover things about people being there and different things like that? Where do you even start looking for something like that?
Well, I got fortunate there too, because when we started the business, the guy I was working with, he put it on insurance. And so I just literally transferred that. So I didn't have to think.
That's good. That's really nice.
I didn't have to think for the business insurance. I was just able to call the guy and say, hi, send me the bill, and what does this cover, because it's now in my home.
Yeah.
And he said, well, we need to do this and this. And I went, oh, okay. And you're going to debit the account? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And now it just happens.
Right.
So I don't really have a lot of knowledge there other than...
But you have it.
Yes.
Yeah, you definitely have to have something like that when people are coming into your home, and there's so many different variables that happen at that point.
And one of mine is my coworker, Paisley. And she's
Paisley.
3 on Monday. Sunday.
Cute.
She'll be 3 on Monday. She's useless, but she's cute.
She's cute and fluffy.
Yes.
And lovable.
And so one of them was training her, because lots of my customers are considerably older than I am.
Yeah.
And so the last thing you want her to do is jump up on them and him fall. So I actually hired a dog trainer to do everything. And he quickly said, oh, she's going to be easy to train. I was like, easy for you to say. I don't know what I'm doing. And so he showed me how to do things I had in my work area. So when you walk in my house, it would be the formal living room and dining room is a quilting machine.
Yeah.
My kids said, does that bother you that that's right when you walk in the door? Anybody who knows me knows I quilt. They don't like it.
Oh, well.
Yeah. My neighbors, they did kind of give me looks.
A little questionable.
Yeah, they went, what is this?
Mine were the same when I got mine.
Yeah. And then right off that, I have an office, and it's the workroom. And so I had her crate there, and when the doorbell rings, she'd go in her crate. And I originally started that with a couple Cheerios, and then she would willingly go in. Yeah. And then she just learned she's going to go in there. And now I was leaving the crate door open, and she was sitting there and acting like the crate was way too small. It wasn't, it was a little small, but I'm like, I'm not taking you to the chiropractor.
No.
So we got rid of the crate, and then she's just has her mats that they're actually quilts. She has quilts she sits on.
Yes.
And now when the doorbell rings, she just goes right there and sits down. She's still barking and tell me there's someone there.
Right.
And she stays there until I tell her when we're done that she can come say hi. So while you have insurance, that is part of
100%.
that prep thing.
Yes, yeah.
Because, that would not be good.
No. That could turn into a whirlwind of different issues.
Yeah, and I've got one customer who just doesn't like anything about dogs.
Yeah.
So when I know she's coming, she goes in her real crate that she sleeps in at night.
Oh.
And she's like, oh, I feel bad. And I said, don't feel bad.
Don't feel bad, no.
Don't feel bad. This is your time, not hers.
Exactly. Yeah. She's got all the time in the world here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's those little things and they're not little, they're big.
Yeah, but it's not stuff that you think of because it's every single day.
Yes.
Paisley's always around. It's her house.
Yes.
You just pay the bills.
Yes.
I mean, that's what it is. I understand.
And she knows when there's a quilt down there for photography.
Yeah.
She doesn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
And occasionally she'll go sit by it, but she doesn't walk on it. She'll walk up when they're hanging there and sniff at them and like, whatever. Yeah. And on she goes. But, I knew I couldn't have cats or dogs that shed.
Yeah.
Downside of Paisley, she doesn't shed, but she has to have her haircut. So.
Yeah, I get it. Tucker's the same way. Yeah. So the grooming bill is the grooming bill.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yes,
so,
I totally understand.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to pivot away from Paisley, which is not something that I normally like to do. I know. We got to get
she hasn't been
back.
Up here in a while. I'll bring her to say hello.
I need to see her. I do. I want to pivot back to talking about, like, say for instance, I'm working in a dental office or I'm a teacher and I'm thinking I want to start this new hobby and transition it to a business. But when I want to be a long arm quilter, that's what I want to do. I would think, probably if that's where I was at, that I don't even know where to start, but that skill set that you might have, organization like you've had in the past, knowing how to schedule like you've had in the past, or knowing how to source goods like you've had in the past as well. There's things that sometimes you don't know will benefit you in your next chapter.
Right.
So can you talk on how you thought through some of those things when in that 6-month process that you told us about when you were like figuring out what you wanted to do? How did that kind of plan out?
One of the things Google is your friend. No, I'm truly, Google is your friend.
Yeah.
You can, and it's probably different now than it was in 2019 because of AI.
Yeah.
Call that good or bad. One of the things I always did when I interview people as employees, one of the questions I always ask is, what do you want to do when you grow up? Of course, that causes them that's not very professional.
Right.
But it changes the conversation dialogue a little bit.
Right.
And now I was having to turn that question on myself. What do I want to do when I grow up? And I knew I wanted to be more creative, whether it was fabrics or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But I felt like, okay, quilting was a good place to go, and how can I make a living? So I started researching stores. Did I want a store with a retreat center, the ability to have a retreat center? Actually literally looked at that down in Fredericksburg area. It could be in the one season, it could be fishing for guys or girls, but a fishing thing, and the next it would be a quilt retreat. So I looked at that and thought, that's like having a B&B. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No, thank you. I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah.
And that's how I got started. Then I looked at truly just a retail space. Do I want to have a retail store? And then I thought, do I want to be responsible for those people's lives and livelihood in having just come off? We were heading into the pandemic. Well, we didn't know about the pandemic in 2019.
Yeah.
Did I want to be responsible for those people's lives?
Yeah.
And their livelihoods? Because people that work for people need the money.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And that's, again, 7 days a week so many
Yes.
times. So did I want to do that? And then that's one thing and another. Can I do an online store? How could I make that happen? So that was one of the thoughts as an online store. And I came across the Longarm quilting just by using Google and watching videos and watching articles and watching all those things that I typically would have never taken the time for. Because I was working 6 days a week,
Right.
10, 12 hours a day. Right. But I watched all those videos and came across things and went, every quilt I've made has to be quilted. I mean, I've got a ton of tops I've made over time.
Yeah.
And they need to be quilted. This is a part of the process.
Yeah.
So I honed in on, but using my research skills and using Google and using YouTube to watch those videos and things like that.
I think one of your major skills, because I remember in 2019 when you were on the hunt for looking for your machine and you came into our store, you have a very unique skill of interviewing people without knowing they're being interviewed.
Oh.
And I didn't know if you knew that, but you do. And you went through the process of why you should buy a Longarm. You didn't. It really wasn't the brand at the point. You just knew that there was a dealer. We were a dealer close by. You came in and you talked with us. You had your notebook and you wrote down a lot of different things that I said. And then you told me that you were going to go off and do some more research. Again, your research skill from your previous life. You went to different quilt guilds. You went to different shows. And you wrote down all that stuff. Then you came back to me with that information and said, this is what I found out in the industry through my research, through my sourcing, through XYZ. And now I need you to tell me, can this turn into a business? Is this going to possibly be things? And I think that's an amazing skill that a lot of people have that they don't even know, because it's, again, that researching thing.
I didn't. If you ask me a question, I'm usually going to ask you several in response.
Yeah.
Because I want to educate me. It's kind of back to the desk.
Yeah.
Will the desk do the things? Well, I don't know. Let me open the drawers.
Right.
When you're opening the drawers, you're not necessarily asking questions in your head, but you're looking. And so I've been told in my past that I should have been a detective kind of person, you know.
Yes, I would agree.
A reporter.
Yes.
So because I ask the questions, and it's not because I want the rest of the world to know necessarily.
Right.
I want to know.
Yeah.
When I was in 6th grade, I asked my teacher why so many times they, it was a private school, so there's only one 6th grade class. Told my mother, she keeps asking why. And my mother's response, well, if you can't answer, we got a problem.
Yeah.
So I've always been a why person.
Yeah.
So that helps. But using those whys.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't know why you have the why. And lots of people are capable of that. They just don't know to just keep going, and then it has meaning.
Yeah.
And then I did ask all my questions.
Yeah.
I had things I had seen that will this machine do it? Will that machine do it? Is this viable? Can I, how many, one of my questions for you was, how many machines can one person operate?
Yeah.
How much room does it take up? All those things. And yes, it's not a minor investment. It's a major investment. So I would say don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
Ask those questions, and you answered every one. You didn't say, well, what kind of question is that? Why would you ask me?
Why are you asking the why?
Yeah.
No,
why are you asking that?
Yeah.
None of that happened.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I got all the answers, and I got honesty.
Yeah.
And when you're not going to get honesty, that's a problem. And straightforwardness.
True. Yeah. We're very honest here at Linda's, and we're going to tell you like
very
it is.
Straightforward.
And very straightforward.
Very straightforward. Yeah. And it needs to happen. But asking those questions, it's all about asking questions.
Yeah.
And then making sure it aligns with what you want to do when you grow up.
Yeah.
I knew I wanted it to be more creative. I wanted to be more creative.
Yeah.
I was up to here with Excel spreadsheets. Now I still live in Excel spreadsheets.
But you use that skill to
Yes.
now do
Yes.
what you really want to
Yes.
do when you grew up.
And I use the skill of communicating with customers and hearing what they're not even saying to me, but hearing what they say without saying it.
Right.
I was a tough taskmaster as a boss because I expect a lot. I expect a lot of myself as well.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Well, I really, really, really want to thank you for being here with me today. I know you've got a full-time job at home,
Yes,
and Paisley's missing you. I know that. But thank you so much for being here and sharing some of your experience and your skill set and how it's transitioned into the successful business that you have today.
thank you very much.
So I really appreciate it. And thank you all so much for watching us here at the podcast, brought to you by Linda's. And I will see you next time. Bye.